Hi everybody, and welcome to another book review from the Black Library. And today we are reviewing Dominion by Darius Hinks. As you can see, my audio is a bit messed up. I'll need to find a way to fix that, but for now that's what we got. So why am I doing a review of Dominion? Dominion was a standalone book that was released for the miniature box, named Dominion, that was for the third release of Age of Sigmar. And within that book, we follow the Crusades and how the humanity is surviving within the realm of Beast. And we see at the same time an introduction to the Stormcast Eternal. So Darius Hinks is a really good writer and is well known for Mephiston. I believe that was a trilogy, and he's taking over for Gotrek. So he's well known, he's writing really well, and what makes this book stand so great for me is because it's a great introduction to Age of Sigmar. So if you're not used to it, or you're not really interested into Age of Sigmar, but at the same time you want to taste it and see what it looks like, this is a great book. One of the reasons is because it got a lot of criticism from people, and I believe it's one of the books that you can get for really cheap. So every time I can see a book that is somewhat really good and you can get for a lower price, I will jump on it. There's a few limited edition books that are circulating. There are some people asking a lot and others are really not asking much. So that's pretty fun to get. So let's start with the summary of the book. So in this book we are following Nixar. He's a drunkard that is a sellsword, and he protects people in exchange for trinkets that he believes is worth a lot of money, since he got a lot of debts, and his whole plan in life is to become so rich that he'll be able to live like a rich person within the wall of Sigmar, which is the city of Excelsis. And by doing all of those little schemes, he gets in trouble. But his sister Zagora, that is working for the army or the militia that's protecting the city, will save him. But by doing so, it's going to send them into a whirlwind of problem. And from there our story starts. I won't give much more information, because I believe from the start, Darius is really sending us into a long quest. And I kind of compare this to a bit of Tolkien, so The Hobbit, if you're more familiar with that type of fantasy. We're really seeing how the humans live within the realm of Beast and how they survive outside of the wall of Sigmar. And we get more specific glimpse of how a crusade is started. A crusade is when we're sending people outside of the wall to reconquer old ruins following the road to Excelsis, or the old road. And from there they're trying to gain more territory against the beast, build wall and fort, and try to survive. And that's a really interesting fact to get from one of those specific realms, how humanity survive. And 70-80% of the book is about Nixar. The other 30 to 20% is related to the Stormcast Eternal, and more specifically to a Knight Arcanium. So the Knights Arcanium are like the sorcerer or the witches of the Stormcast Eternal, and we see how they perceive the world around them. And it's really, really interesting. We get that little fulfillment of getting more information. So every time I read a book and it gives you just a bit more lore, it's fun, it's cool, and it does its job. So here we get it. We get how the Crusades are started, how the Crusades are made, what's the planning, how do they plan. This Azir is, we'll call it Paradise, is telling them how to do stuff, and they really need to follow it within whatever is the request from Sigmar himself. So we see too how Sigmar is communicating with normal human, and that's another cool fact, and how his message can be really confusing. So if you're reading Dominion, tell yourself that you're reading a fantasy book. It's not 40k, so if you're used to really the 40k type of lore, this is not the case. And what is fun about this book is we're following a really straight timeline. And we're following Nixar, and we're jumping to the Night Arcanium, but at the same time, we're not disconnecting from the flow of the timeline. So we're not just talking about somebody and then moving across the country to talk about somebody else. They're all sticking together, and that is how we're going to perceive this whole story. So this is fun. It's not cutting off, and it's flowing really well. With the criticism of this book, a lot of people says that it's a slow start. I do understand why, and I believe I pinpointed why. So when I started the first chapter and the second one, I wasn't too sure where Darius was going with his book, and sometimes I wasn't really connected to it. And the more I was reading, the more I was interested to know what was coming up. And you know the principle of not advert expectation, but advert expectation from your reader, like do some twists. So with him, every time you believe you know where it's going, there is something that's going to stop them from achieving that goal. So they're going to reach it. They're going to reach the goal that you're believing by reading. But every time there's a monkey wrench or something coming and stopping him or the characters to move along, and they need to overcome those obstacles. So some people may feel that it's dragging. But at another point, I kind of like it, because every time they throw a monkey wrench, you're really wondering, how are they going to solve this? And usually it's not getting solved in the way you believe it would. So I really like that. So it's really fresh. The only other thing I could see is the fact that Darius is not really consistent with the number of people into the action. And what I mean by that, if I say there's 10,000 people and each of those people are killing 100 each, and there is 5,000 enemies, well, you would believe that they would kill all the enemies. But after a while, it turns out that half of them are dead, so now we're about 5,000, but there's still 5,000 enemies, but they were killing 100 each. Like, there's that little, not too sure where the numbers are coming from, and by the end of the book, you're wondering if there is still like 10 people alive, and there seems to be a lot more. So that's the only criticism I can bring to him. It's really just, I'm not too sure where we're at with those numbers. But beside that, everything else flows pretty well. We really see all the dangers that comes with the realm of beast, how extraordinary and how absurd it is with creatures and monsters and non-stop, and you're wondering why the hell would humanity sit there and try to build something up there. And it's really devotion and zealots that brings Sigmar within this realm and keep pushing humanity to survive. So it is a great book. It is worth to give it some time. If you're not into Age of Sigmar, but you never read a book, I would start with this one. It is a good introduction. It will not tell you exactly who is Sigmar, but it's going to give you enough to know what are the Stormcast Eternal, how they behave in battle, what happens if one dies, even though they're immortal, and on and on. So you kind of fill out all those blanks quickly, but at the same time after that you get more questions. Why does Sigmar send people into the realm of beast? How does the Stormcast Eternal get chosen? And you kind of get a glimpse of it. So on this, I'm going to say that this book is worth a 7 or 8 out of 10. If you're an Age of Sigmar fan, it's worth to have in your collection. If you're a fantasy fan, you're going to get your fill. It's fun. It's actually a good fantasy. It's well written. If you're a 40k type of person, it may leave bitter taste and not really fulfilling, because it's really just centered about a specific goal, and there is nothing else that happened beside that. So we're really following a short specific story, like I said, maybe like The Hobbit, where there is a specific journey and we're coming back, but this one is just the journey and that's it. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this. This book can, like I say, can be found for really cheap. This one is a hard copy that I got for $5. Super easy to find, really, really cheap, and I believe you will like it. So on this, I hope you guys enjoy, and I will see you around for my next book review. All right, see you around.